Hello, welcome back to Agriculture Form 2. We are now on topic number 7 and we'll be discussing on the farming systems. Remember, last lesson we were on gender in agriculture, whereby we first defined the meaning of the term gender, and we also looked on the roles of gender, whereby in a community we have specific roles for women, specific roles for male, but that will have an impact in agricultural production. So we found out that most of the activities they are carried out by women, but they are not involved in decision making, so that led to low agricultural production. So we are proceeding from where we stopped. Now we'll be discussing on topic number 7, the farming system. Of course, on this topic we are going to define the term farming system, what we mean farming system. Then later on we're going to look on the two main types of the farming systems. So we are going to give examples under each and every type of the farming system, not forgetting advantages and disadvantages of the two main systems. So you are aware that there are several activities or enterprises that can be found in a farm. These activities or enterprises are organized in various ways, depending on size of land, capital available, labor available, management skills, as well as level of technology available. So those ways through which a farmer organizes and carries out farming activities on his or her farm are the ones which we refer them to as farming systems. So we can define farming systems as the way a farmer organizes and carries out farming activities on his or her farm. So there are basically two types of farming systems, namely intensive system as well as extensive farming system. So we're going to describe the intensive farming system, then later on we'll describe the extensive farming systems. Intensive farming system, this is a system of farming that is characterized by high capital investment and maximum utilization of available land. So this kind of farming system most of the times uses high capital available, and there is maximum utilization of available land. Even if the land is small, there is utilization of that available land to the extent that you can have high production from that farm if you use intensive farming system. So what are these examples of intensive farming systems which we use high capital and utilize to the fullest the available land? So methods of farming under intensive system may include mixed farming, mixed cropping. There is a difference between mixed farming and mixed cropping. Apart from that, we have zero grazing, deep litter poultry layering systems, battery cage poultry system, no-till cropping or zero tillage, as well as organic farming. Of course, there are many, but these are just some of the methods under intensive farming system. Let's start with the first example, mixed farming. Mixed farming is just a method of farming that involves growing of crops and layering of livestock on the same piece of land. So you are engaged in crop production at the same time you are engaged in livestock production on the same piece of land. So we refer that as a mixed cropping. This farming system has some advantages, and some of the advantages are as follows. Animals can be used as source of farm power. You have crop enterprises, then you also have animal enterprises, so you can easily get from animal enterprises the farm as a source of farm power, so that they can be used, let's say, in crop enterprises. And also there is mutual benefit between the crops and livestock. That is, livestock produce manure for crops, and crop remains are also used as livestock feeds. So there is mutual benefit. It's like the crop production will be relying on livestock production in form of manure. Those manure from livestock will be used as organic fertilizer for the crops, as well as the remains of the crops can be used as feeds for livestock. So there is that mutual benefit. Apart from that, there is diversification, hence food security. Since you'll be engaged into several enterprises in crop production as well as in animal production, that kind of diversification may lead to food insecurity. Even if one of the enterprise fails, you can rely on the other enterprise. Apart from that, there is maximum utility of land. That same piece of land, layering animals, that same piece of land, growing crops, there is really maximum utilization of land. Apart from that, animal waste can be used to produce biogas. Even though we have explained the advantages of mixed cropping, but this mixed cropping can also have some disadvantages, and some of the disadvantages are as follows. Requires a lot of land. Apart from that, requires high level of management skills in order for you to have knowledge on how to layer animals at the same time, on how to grow crops. Sometimes it's not always that you can have all the skills in all the enterprises. So requires high level of management skills, and also requires high capital investment. You need resources for crop production. You also need resources for animal production. So it requires high capital investment. And also livestock may damage crops if not well confined. When you are engaged in mixed farming, make sure that the animals are confined. Even though it's the same piece of land, but there is need to confine those animals so that they should not be moving up and down all over the land where you also grow some crops. So if they are not well managed, those livestock may damage crops. So that's the disadvantages. Those are the disadvantages of mixed farming. Then we have mixed cropping. This is the growing of two or more crops on the same field, but in different sections of the farm at the same time. Remember, mixed farming, we're talking of layering animals as well as growing crops on the same piece of land. But mixed cropping, we are talking of growing of two or more crops. It means in mixed cropping, only crops will be grown. But if there are 2 or more crops on the same piece of land, even if different sections of the farm, as long as they are appearing at the same time, that's mixed cropping. So this one acts as an insurance against a crop failure. Once one of the crop fails, at least you have an assurance to harvest from the other crop. Then we have zero grazing. This is just the method whereby the animals do not directly feed on the pasture in the field, but rather they are just confined in a shed or yard where they are fed. That is, feed is cut and brought to them in a store. So zero grazing animals, they are not allowed to go to the field and graze on the land direct, but rather the farmer is the one which will harvest the fodder and provide the fodder to the animals in their shed or in their corral. Then we have deep litter system. Deep litter system is also under intensive farming system. This is a method of layering poultry where the birds are confined within a big house. The house usually has no partition and the floor is covered with absorbent litter. It also has feeders, water or water troughs, laying nests and other requirements. And this is very common. This deep litter system is very common in broilers. Apart from that, we have battery cage system. This is the method whereby the birds are confined in wired cages. The number of birds per cage varies from 1 to 4 depending on the size of the cage as well as size of the birds, the environment and the farmer's preference. So the cages are normally in rows called tiers. That is a row built over another, usually 2 to 3 in number. The cages are arranged back to back and raised 2 to 3 feet above the ground for ease of cleaning the floor. The cages have a sloping floor to allow easy loading of eggs to the collecting tray. There is a watering and a feeding system which is continuous throughout the cages. So on the battery cage system is common in layers, the chicken which lay eggs. Here are the 2 pictures for the battery cage system as well as deep litter system. This one we mentioned that is just open. The animals or the birds are not confined in the deep litter system, but they are provided with the water troughs as well as the feed troughs. Here the picture is for a battery cage. You can see that the birds, they are confined in cages. So a suitable cage for hens usually should be 1.5 feet high at the back, 1.8 feet high at the front, and 1.5 feet deep and 1.2 feet wide, so that the birds should be comfortable. Then we have no-till cropping. This is a method of farming where crops are planted season after season without any tillage. It is also known as zero tillage. The land is usually heavily mulched to prevent weed growth. Alternatively, herbicides are used to control weeds. The seeds are planted by drilling into the soil. So no-till cropping, most of the times the land is not disturbed. in terms of land preparation, tilling, whatsoever. Those activities are not done. That's why the name no-till cropping. So there's just some minor tillage whereby maybe you just create the holes where you're going to plant your seed. This one is a very important farming system just because it reduces soil erosion, as nowadays we are claiming that there is too much soil erosion taking place, but it reduces soil erosion and also reduces cost of crop production. So there will be little expenses when it comes to land preparation is spared. So you will not spend much money on land preparation, thereby saving cost of production or reducing the cost of production. And also, just because the soil is not that disturbed, it will help to conserve soil moisture. It will also maintain soil structure. And the system promotes timely planting, since you'll not be wasting time to prepare the land, so it promotes timely planting. And also prevents root damage of cultivated crops. But some disadvantages may be it may encourage build-up of soil-borne diseases and pests. Sometimes we have some soil-borne diseases as well as pests. When you till the land, at least you expose those pests as well as diseases under the sun. But if you are not tilling, as per no-till agriculture or no-till cropping, it means those pests as well as diseases, they may just be hiding under the soil, so they will multiply fast, thereby encouraging build-up of those soil-borne diseases and pests. And also may lead to poor water infiltration. Most of the times, infiltration to take place, you need to loosen the soil. So you can loosen the soil if you till the land. So if you are not tilling the land, it means the soil will be intact. So it will be difficult for the water to penetrate into the soil. And also may lead to poor aeration. It's all the same, just because the land is not tilled, so the soil is not softened or loosened, thereby hindering penetration of air in the soil, leading to poor aeration. Then we have organic farming. This is a method of farming where there is growing of crops and layering of animals without using agricultural chemicals. So this kind of farming, most of the times we say it's environmental friendly, just because chemicals are not used. So practices such as mulching, using organic materials are used. Crop rotation is used to enhance organic farming. So this organic farming is very, very important in the sense that, first, as I've already said, it is environmental friendly and the products do not have any organic chemical residues. Apart from that, this system, it utilizes organic manure to replenish soil nutrients. Inorganic manure are not used here. It also improves soil structure. Since we are talking of use of organic manure, those ones, they will help to improve soil structure and enhance soil water infiltration and retention. It also provides food for the soil microbes. In the soil, we have some microorganisms which will help in decomposition process. So those marshes which we use under organic farming, or those organic manure, they provide food to those soil microbes which help in releasing minerals for crop nutrition. Apart from that, naturally occurring materials such as medicinal plants are used instead of chemicals. So those were some of the examples of intensive farming system. intensive farming systems. So in general, what can be the importance of using intensive farming system? This intensive farming system can support the growing population in several ways. Through intensive farming, there is maximum utilization of available land, hence a higher output per unit area to support the ever-growing population. As you are aware that nowadays we are running out of land to cultivate. There is shortage of land to cultivate just because of the growing population. So if we are to use intensive farming system, of which we say there is maximum utilization of available land, even if the land is small, you can still have enough for your family. The available land is properly utilized through good pest and disease management, water conserving, irrigation, conservation tillage, and use of genetically improved crop varieties. And also intensive farming leads to high yields of good quality due to high level of management skills and use of modern technology. So this improves enough food for the growing population. And also intensive farming can be practiced in densely populated areas, hence most appropriate in the country where population is growing fast. Intensive farming system also protects the environment because it reduces the amount of land used for agriculture, which is in turn exposed to erosion agents. Therefore, intensive farming system ensures sustainable agriculture for future generations. And lastly, intensive farming system is important just because it results in high income per unit area, hence providing employment to the increasing force. Having done with the intensive system, now let us look on extensive farming system. Extensive farming system, this is a system of farming that is characterized by low capital investment and is usually carried out on large tracts of land. So some of the methods which are under extensive farming system are shifting cultivation, ranching, bush fallowing, cut and carry, cut and carry. On shifting cultivation, this is a very old farming method. It involves plowing a piece of land and growing crops on it until the soil is exhausted. So first of all, of course, the farmer will clear the land. Once he clears the land, then he plants the crops, but those crops are not, you do not apply fertilizer. They use the nutrients which are the natural nutrients available on that new opened land. So once that farmer starts to cultivate on that piece of land for several years, there will be decline in yield just because fertilizer or fertility is not retained. So once the production is extremely low, that farmer abandons that land completely and shift to the other virgin land, start to cut trees there and cultivate once again. So this method requires large tracts of land, and for that reason it has slowly died out. Some of the advantages of shifting cultivation could be land is given time to rest and regain its fertility, more especially when that land is abandoned. Pests and diseases die upon shifting. The cost of production is low because no fertilizer is used. But it has some disadvantages. It can only be practiced in areas with large tracts of land. of which in most of the parts this system can not be practiced just because there is too much population and we have small pieces of land. Its continuous use of the land may lead to soil erosion, and also it can only be used for growing annual crops and not perennial ones. And lastly, it may lead to land fragmentation. Ranching is also another example of extensive farming system, whereby it's a method of layering livestock in vast land. So the focus on ranching is animals. So it's a method of layering livestock in vast land. The animals, usually beef cattle, are kept in partitioned pastures known as paddocks. So they'll be rotating from one paddock to another. Once the first paddock, the feeds are consumed, then the animals are guided to the other paddock. Advantages: there is maximum use of available pasture. Apart from that, pasture is given time to regenerate because of paddocking. It allows the farmer time to carry out management practices on the pastures, such as top dressing, topping, and reseeding. Animal droppings are evenly distributed in the field. In terms of disadvantages, it requires large land and it has low output, just because the fertilizers are not used, or the ones which can retain soil fertility. That's why there is low output. Bushfire is the practice whereby the plots are cleared, then you start to cultivate on that piece of land for some time. When the fertility has declined on that piece of land, you shift to the other piece of land. So you do that for several lands, then you come back to the first land, which you put it at fallow, which you put it at rest. So sometimes this is referred to as land rotation, just because the land is rotated so as to restore its fertility. Cut and carry is a method whereby crop residues and forages are cut and carried from communal areas or other farms and taken to the fields to feed tethered animals. So on cut and carry, most of the times we use this method when you have the animals which are just kept in the collar, the animals which are restricted not to move out to search for food. So instead, you cut the feeds and carry those feeds to wherever the animals are. Cut and carry. Yeah, now let us look on the general importances of extensive farming system. An extensive farming system has some benefits, and the following are some of the benefits. Number one, it is cheap due to low capital input as per its description, and also it requires less labor input. It ensures proper utilization of marginal areas which could not have otherwise been utilized. It also does not require a high level of management of skills. Let us have a practical work. At least visit the neighboring farms and identify the farming system used. You visit any neighboring farm, then identify the farming system used. Whether on those in the category it is under intensive system, you mention the example of that intensive system. Whether it is under extensive system, you also mention the example under intensive system and match with the farming system of the neighboring farms. And also visit farms where the intensive farming system is practiced and interview farmers on the benefits of the system. Then let us have the revision exercise. At least you need to define the term farming system, then give 3 factors that determine the choice of farming system. Since we have listed several the 2 main farming systems, some of these examples are under intensive, some examples are under extensive. So it means you need to choose wisely on the farming system to practice. So there should be some factors to consider when determining the choice of farming system. So I need you to give me 3 factors that determine the choice of farming system. And also it is important to define intensive farming. Another question, in which ways does intensive farming system support the growing population? So that makes the end of our topic, our lesson and topic on the farming systems. Remember, we have defined the term farming system and we have categorized the farming system into 2 main, that's intensive and extensive farming system. Then we have given examples of the farming systems under intensive and also examples of the farming systems under extensive farming system. And not forgetting the importance of using intensive system as well as extensive farming system. So next time we'll discuss on topic number 8, which is financing agricultural enterprises. Financing agricultural enterprises. Thank you very much for being with me. Until next time, goodbye.